Hey the lads, welcome to a brand new video on the Magpie 24/7 channel. Today I will be ranking every single Premier League manager from 20 to 1, 20 being the worst obviously and 1 being the best. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it with our number 20. And in number 20 I've decided to go for Ruud van Nistelrooy. Obviously a fantastic player on his day, but in my opinion he just hasn't really shown he's cut out for this managerial level. His Leicester City side looks very naive at times. He isn't really helped by both the quality of player he has at his possession right now and his style of play, as well as the squad building, which has eluded, or is a skill which has eluded Leicester City over the past couple of seasons, and the supporters groups are getting kind of fed up with it. But in my opinion, Ruud van Nistelrooy probably too inexperienced to save a club like Leicester City from relegation this season. He is, with the lack of experience and just the naive tactical setup of his team, unfortunately the worst current Premier League manager. In 19th, I've decided to go for Ivan Juric. Now, Ivan Juric has had a pretty long managerial career, which is why he has pipped Ruud van Nistelrooy into 19th, even though Ivan Juric has not ever won anything. Nothing at all. Not a single major honor as a manager. He only won, I think, the Manager of the Season award in the Italian second tier once, but apart from that, just a very dire Wikipedia page to be reading. And if you have been in the managerial game for this long, maybe you should have already won at least something, you know, a national cup or something, just anything. In 18th, and making up our relegation zone, is actually Vitor Pereira of Wolverhampton. Yes, not the relegation zone or 3 relegated sides it will most likely be at the end of this season in real life, but the Wolves manager who has replaced Gary O'Neill. And let me be quite frank, I am actually pretty impressed with Vitor Pereira. I didn't think he would be a great appointment because I did not know a lot about him, but he is clearly doing a better job than Gary O'Neill was, getting a lot more out of this side. I think Agbadou has looked a very good signing under him as well, still getting the maximum amount of output out of a player like Cunha, so he does deserve credit. And one thing you will notice when we are going over this list is the Premier League is just fully stuffed with absolutely class managers, so it is really harsh to rank some of these as low as I have done, but I will explain my way into or as to why I have ranked them the way I did. Coming up into our number 17th position, and in my opinion that one has to go to Kieran McKenna of Ipswich. Again, a pretty inexperienced manager, so he can't really go any higher than this on the list, but he doesn't deserve to be any lower in my opinion either, because this is a man who achieved back-to-back promotions with Ipswich Town, something which is very impressive to do, and with a heavily backed but still mostly consisting of League One average / Championship average players, he is kind of having them be competitive. They are less competitive than I probably hoped / thought they would be. If you go back to my predictions video, you'll probably notice that one as well. But they are competitive. They are a pretty fun side to you know, watch this season. And I think Kieran McKenna has actually done a very admirable job and not at all hurt his reputation, which saw him linked to the Chelsea job, the Man United job, the Brighton job in the summer. So yeah, very interesting option. Kieran McKenna in at number 17th. In at number 16th, I've decided to go for Fabian Hursler. Now, this feels very low because Brighton aren't really in and amongst those regions of the table any longer, or haven't been for a couple of seasons, but Fabian Hursler is still only 32 years old. He's younger than KSI. Thank you, Irish guy, for that reference, but yes, Fabian Hursler is younger than KSI and he is a Premier League manager. I think Brighton on their day look like an absolutely fantastically drilled and coached side. He has really, really modern and progressive views on how to play the game, how to build up, how to kind of forget about formations and use positions or roles instead, which is very, very interesting. So I do believe he could go up a lot in this list, but right now, as for the things he has achieved, which are basically is just a promotion with St. Pauli, of the real impressive achievements that is, um, I can't really put him any lower than number 16. So number 16, Fabian Hösler. That does bring us on to number 15, which in my opinion is David Moyes. And this is exactly one of those where experience gets him a bit higher up in the table than he normally would be. If you would have asked some people this 10 years ago, 8 years, 7 years ago, they would have probably had Moyes lower in the list. But don't forget, this is a guy who won West Ham the Europa Conference League. European silverware for West Ham United, that is absolutely massive. And he has turned around Everton quite impressively in quite a short amount of time as well. So there has to be something has to be said for how impressive that is and how impressive he has been for Everton. I think he's a very, very solid mid-table manager who will never get your team in any sort of real relegation trouble, which is worth a lot of money in my opinion in today's game, where a lot of Premier League sides would kill to ensure guaranteed survival in the Premier League season upon season. David Moyes in at number 15. In at number 14, I've gone with a bit of a controversial one maybe, but I've decided to go with Graham Potter. Basically because I do think there is a lot of upside with Graham Potter. West Ham already look like a much better coach team than they ever looked under Lopetegui, which kind of says it all because he only has been in the job for about a month or two, probably. But his Brighton team were very, very, very good. Unbelievably hard to beat. Okay, they drew a lot of games, but Brighton still draw a lot of games, so that isn't necessarily blame which needs to be laid at his feet, in my opinion. He got eaten alive at Chelsea, but let's be honest, that project was never ever gonna work for him. He had to kind of make do with the tools he was given at Brighton, and at Chelsea he was kind of given every single tool without a label on what the tool is used for. So it was figure it out on your own situation, and he was never really going to come out of that greatly. But after a big long old absence from football, he is back at West Ham, and I do think there is a quality manager in there. So that's why I've decided to go for number 14, I think, for Graham Potter, 14th in the list. In at number 13, I've decided to go with Ruben Amorim from Manchester United. And this basically is because in England, he has not shown anything so far. Manchester United cannot win a game, and I understand it does take a while to learn a new system, especially when it's transitioning from a 4-back into a 3-back. But basically, wait till the summer to start teaching teach your players in midweek, but play a system they already know, because Man United are not picking up any points, are getting embarrassed week by week by week, and that's just very, very demoralizing. Their best attacker is out on loan in Marcus Rashford, probably. Okay, that's very harsh to Amad Diallo, who has had a fantastic season, but is also out injured for the rest of the season. Alejandro Garnacho doesn't really seem like he wants to be there anymore. It's all a very, very big mess at Manchester United, and in my opinion, as of now, Ruben Amorim has not done a lot or enough or anything at all, really, to fix that mess. So he is really, really low on the list for a manager of Manchester United, but he has to be higher than other managers, because the thing is, what he did at Sporting Lisbon was actually very, very inspiring, I wanted to say, but also very, very impressive. He won 2 out of 3 possible league titles for them at a time where it was a very, very long time ago since Sporting had won a league title in Portugal, due to the dominance of Benfica and Porto, obviously. But he has done that after becoming I think, the third most expensive manager of all time after only being in charge of Braga, I think it was, or maybe a different Portuguese team for only 6 months. So a very, very impressive start to his career. Can he defy the odds and keep his impressive career going at Manchester United? As of now, we have to say no, but it is still very, very early days. So still some potential to rise up the ladder in this ranking. In at number 12, I want to talk about Ange Postecoglou. And Ange is a very peculiar one, because a year ago he would probably be a lot higher on the list, but this season has definitely exposed some flaws to his managerial style. A lot of people talk about his refusal to move away from his philosophy, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because as a manager it is very good to have a set philosophy and to always try and play towards that philosophy, because you've most likely been squad building towards that philosophy. And for Tottenham, that's very gung-ho, fast-paced, very direct attacking football. And with the players they have missed across this season, it has been very, very difficult to play that style of football. But I just don't think Ange has really done enough, for starters, to cope with the players he's been missing. Look at teams like Bournemouth, Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, who have also struggled massively with injuries. And okay, Manchester United isn't really the best example, because they are below Tottenham in the league table, but that's because of a whole host of other reasons apart from the injuries. With the other teams, they have had maybe not as bad, but still very, very bad injuries, just like Tottenham do, but they have coped with them so much better. And I think Ange is partly to blame for that, which just takes him a couple of pegs down in this list, because he has done some impressive things. His Celtic team were absolutely phenomenal. Okay, Celtic win pretty much everything anyway, but still, you have to win the tournaments you compete in every time. Bayern Munich showed last year that even if you've won 11 in a row, the 12th isn't a guarantee. A side like Leverkusen can always just step up and do something crazy, and his Celtic team just didn't let that happen. So there is a very, very great manager there. I don't think he's going to win something at Tottenham. Even Jose Mourinho couldn't do it, so why could he? In 11th, I've decided to go for Enzo Maresca, and this is again a very, very inexperienced manager, but a manager who has impressed me quite often this season, actually, I must admit. And I hate saying that, because I really, really don't like Chelsea, but I gotta be honest here. Enzo Maresca, with the way he's decided which players are kind of like his guys in a way, he's decided, I'm going to play these 11 players week in, week out. Maybe 3 or 4 players who will roll in and out of the side, but mostly we stick to those players in the league, and then a different set of players in the European competition. So all of these players know where they stand. That's probably why you haven't seen players like Chukwuemeka, Sancho, Chilwell kick up a fuss about not playing the minutes they probably should be playing, because one, there are so many players in each and every position at Chelsea, but two, Enzo Maresca has been very clear to his players from the start. So in that sense, there has to be some plaudits for him, but I think over the last 2 months we have seen some naivety to him as well. When players like Palmer get marked out of game, he finds it very hard to find a different way to score, and he's also very, very much struggling with setting up his team to defend. Teams just find ways to score against Chelsea in pretty much every single game, and that's still a very, very big worry, especially when you have such an amazing central defensive midfielder as Moises Caicedo playing in front of your backline. Starting off our number 10, I wanted to talk about Thomas Frank, and the best way to describe him is with this statistic. Over the last 6 years, only one team has survived in the Premier League without spending more than £70 million in the first transfer window they got back into the Premier League, and that team was obviously Brentford. Thomas Frank is an amazing coach with very, very limited resources. He can create an absolutely amazing side, But the reason I can't put him higher on the list is because he hasn't made one step up yet. Brentford don't really look like they are a team who are looking to kick on into Europe or maybe even into Champions League position, like for example a Brighton are chasing or a Bournemouth are clearly chasing right now. Brentford seem kind of content with just turning over players, turning over a profit, and I think Thomas Frank should not be content with that because his ceiling is a lot higher than that. Thomas Frank, maybe next summer, look at a possible upgrade. For our number 9 slot, I've decided to go with Marco Silva. And why have I decided to go with Marco Silva? Well, very simple. Fulham look incredible, but he keeps on coaching an incredible Fulham side even though they lose their best players. Think about it. 2 summer transfer windows on the bounce, they've lost their key asset. First one was Alexander Mitrovic, who went to Saudi Arabia, and last summer Joao Palhinha left them for Bayern Munich. A lot of people would say they have not adequately replaced them with superstars. They haven't. They have signed people like Rodrigo Muniz, Raúl Jiménez, Sasha Lukic, Sander Berge, but they don't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. And Marco Silva has continuously coached a very, very decent side with limited resources again. And I think maybe because he showed a lot of ambition in his early years of his career with his move from, I think it was Hull to Everton, then back to Watford. A lot of people had question marks around him, but right now those question marks have been answered in my opinion. He is absolutely a class manager and at least Europa League standard in my opinion. Talking about the Europa League, actually a Europa League winner, in at number 8 we have Oliver Glasner, obviously someone who won the Europa League with Eintracht Frankfurt, which is a very, very crazy achievement in itself actually. Frankfurt, a team who produce a lot of attacking talent, who don't necessarily kick on when they get a move away from that club. And then Omar Marmoush goes and scores a hat-trick against Newcastle. But as for Oliver Glasner, he has shown this season he is a class manager. Notoriously, he does start the season pretty slowly, as he did again this season with Crystal Palace. But over the last 3 to 4 months, they have looked impeccable. Mateta has found his recent form again. The Olise gap is showing less and less. The defense, even though they lost Trevoh Chalobah, is still looking very, very solid. So Oliver Glasner, I really, really do rate you as a manager, and I think he could make a very, very big step up from Crystal Palace in the near future. Maybe not in the Premier League, but go to a Dortmund, for example, a Bayern Munich, a Juventus, that kind of club, I think would be really, really interested in a manager like Oliver Glasner. In at number 7, I've decided with someone who, if Arne Slot wasn't doing what he was doing, most likely would be winning the Manager of the Season award. It's Nuno Espirito Santo. He is also a manager who I was very, very wrong about. I didn't really rate him when when Forest hired him, because I remembered his Tottenham spell. His Tottenham spell was too freshly in my mind, because actually at Wolves he was still very, very impressive. Okay, Wolves was a very largely backed team at that moment in time with all the Portuguese influx of talent, even back when they were in the Championship. But he did get them into the Europa League in back-to-back seasons, which is very, very impressive. And obviously we have to talk about what an amazing performance his Nottingham Forest team of this season are achieving. But there is most likely some luck involved there. Nottingham Forest averaged the lowest possession of any team in the Premier League, and I think the second lowest pass accuracy of any team in the league. But obviously it is working for them at this moment in time. They are third in the league, very much cruising, hoping and challenging for Champions League football, so you can't knock it. Nuno Espirito Santo, very deserved number 7 position in my list. In at number 6, a manager who I originally thought I was going to put even higher, but let's be honest, again, like I've said before, there are so many class managers in the league, so it is very, very difficult to make those decisions. I've gone for Andoni Iraola. Iraola did some very, very impressive stuff for Rayo Vallecano, having them challenge for Champions League football quite a long time, back when he was there for his last season. But this season with Bournemouth, he has took his managerial game to an absolutely new stratosphere. I was going to say a new level, but it's a lot bigger than that. He is such a creative manager. Bournemouth have 20, 25, 30 different ways of scoring goals. If you take out their star strikers, for example, Unal and Evan Nilsson both have been injured for a very, very long time. They still, with their third string striker Dango Otara, find ways to get him a hat trick. Bournemouth are unbelievably exciting, are unbelievably not necessarily complex. Complex isn't the right word, but there's a very, very creative team there. Who would have told you that Semenyo, back when he was playing for Bristol in the Championship, would be such a good Premier League winger? Or that Christie would be such a good deep line playmaker? Or that Dean Huijsen would be such an amazing buy from Juventus? Bournemouth squad building, Andoni Iraiola's understanding of his players, I think he's a class manager and he can only go up in this list if he stays in the Premier League. In at number 5, I've decided to go for Mikel Arteta. Now, this is probably going to be a pretty controversial one, and I can already hear Arteta crying again in his next press conference about this. But anyway, I don't think it's necessarily a knock on him, because have a look firstly at all the managers who are underneath him in the league and who will be above him. He's a class manager. What he's achieved getting an Arsenal team which kind of became a joke at one point, getting them competitive and challenging City all the way last season and nearly all the way the season before. Not necessarily performing the way people expected this season, but progress isn't linear, not for any team, so it can't be for Arsenal. But until he does get his team over the line, I'm afraid I just can't put him any higher than the 5th position. Also because he hasn't done it anywhere else, so we can only judge him off his Arsenal days. In at number 4, I've decided to go with Arne Slot. Yes, Newcastle fans, he's still coming. Calm your horses. I'm not delusional, hear me out. Arne Slot in at number 4. Obviously, what he's doing at Liverpool this season is absolutely amazing. And that means he is in at number 4, because at the start of this season, before a ball was kicked, he would probably be maybe just about sneaking into the top 10, but you can't deny how impressive Liverpool have been this season. But this is still mostly a Jurgen Klopp team. When Salah, when Van Dijk, when Alisson, when Robertson, when Trent, when those players leave and he has to build his own team, that's when we will really start to see what kind of manager Arne Slot really is. So he still can overtake some people in the list, especially if Liverpool keep up the dominance they have shown this season. But for now, one league title in Holland, one cup, it's not terrible, it's not amazing. I think 4th is fair for Arne Slot, especially if we go into our 3rd manager now, or the manager in 3rd position, which is our very own Eddie Howe. I know that's a Newcastle badge, not Eddie Howe, but still, Eddie Howe has to be 3rd in the list for me. Just think about what this man has achieved in his, let's be honest, pretty short managerial career. Bournemouth, he has got them through an absolute fairy tale, rising up the league ladder and then actually keeping them in the league for a pretty consistent amount of time. But when they eventually got relegated, his main critic was, and it was a fair critic, Eddie Howe cannot coach a defense. And it was true, Bournemouth could not defend for shit, and that was actually the reason they went down in the end. But Eddie Howe took time off, went to Madrid, studied Diego Simeone, studied Simeone's defensive styles, came back, became Newcastle manager, and created a second miracle where he took a team who were in the relegation zone, got them very much clear of that relegation zone with an absolutely amazing winning streak, got Champions League football in the next season, and reached a cup final with a team who hasn't won a cup in 50 years. Next season, okay, it was a bit of a letdown, but still there were results like the 4-1 against PSG, the 2-0 win against Manchester United, the 3-3 this season against Liverpool, knocking out Arsenal out of the cup this season, again reaching another cup final in the EFL Cup, in which we will face Liverpool, and but we have a very nice chance of reaching another cup final in the FA Cup, given Manchester City are the only team who on paper are better than us still left in the competition, in my opinion. So that those are just all such impressive things, and Eddie Howe makes every single player he gets his hands on better. Joe Linton was a flop of a striker, now he's one of the most revered central midfielders in the league. Bruno Guimaraes is absolutely fantastic. We bought him for 30 million. If we would have sold him 18 months later, we would have tripled our money. But we didn't, because he's class, and keeping him makes our midfield tick. Sandro Tonali, a lot of people thought too much money, especially after his year ban. This season has looked absolutely fantastic. Lewis Hall didn't play that much football last season, looks absolutely fantastic this season. Give Howe the time to coach and develop players, and he will do so. He is absolutely class. He is, in my opinion, the very best English manager since Sir Bobby Robson. Please, if anyone disagrees with me, let me know, and let me know why. But I genuinely do believe it's true. Eddie Howe in at number 3. In at number 2, I've decided to go for Unai Emery. Yes, Mr. Good evening. Well, it's very straightforward. His Arsenal days probably not fondly remembered by Arsenal fans, but Aston Villa fans most likely love this man and will be very excited with their Champions League run for this season, because they are in the last 16. Most likely will be facing, or I think have a 50% chance of facing Club Brugge from Belgium, which, I mean, they lost in the league phase, but still they would be absolutely buzzing, I think, with an opponent like that, avoiding other possible opponents like Manchester City, Real Madrid, for example. And look at that Europa League record of Unai Emery. Who does it better? Let me tell you, nobody does it better. Unai Emery is an unbelievable manager. He has unbelievable pedigree, especially in Europe, especially in cup competitions. And I just have to give him the second spot in the league. But the first one has obviously got to go to Pep Guardiola. And I think me trying to tell you why Pep Guardiola is the best manager in the league is almost disrespectful. So I'm just going to lean back for a bit and let you read his trophy list. Anyways, that was the video. I want to thank you for watching. Please let me know what your rankings are. If I've messed my rankings up, let me know your opinion in the comment section down below, or on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, everywhere. Go follow our page on those social media sites as well, and I hope to see you in the next video. Later.